Moving on, let's now have the main bronchi. The left and right main bronchi are formed by the division of trachea. The left bronchus is narrower, longer, and less straighter than the right. With this structure, the right main bronchus has a higher tendency for any foreign objects to be placed. Here is another picture showing the main bronchi. Now let's move on to the lungs. The lungs are fairly large organs. They occupy the entire thoracic cavity except for the most central area, which is the mediastinum, which houses the heart, the great blood vessels, bronchi, the esophagus, and other organs. The narrow superior portion of each lung is the apex. It's just deep to the clavicle. The broad lung area resting on the diaphragm is called the base. So in short, the base sits on the diaphragm and the apex projects about first rib and into the roof of the neck. Each lung is divided into two lobes by fissures. The left lung has two lobes and the right lung has three. The surface of each lung is covered with its own visceral serosa called the pulmonary pleura or the visceral pleura. So here it is. And the walls of the thoracic cavity are lined by the parietal pleura. The pleural membranes produce pleural fluid, slippery serous fluid, which allows the lungs to glide easily over the thorax wall during breathing and causes the two pleural layers to cling together. The pleurae can slide easily from one side to another side across one another, but they strongly resist being pulled apart. Consequently, the lungs held tightly to the thorax wall and the pleural space is more of the potential space than an actual one. As we described shortly, this tight adherence of the pleural membrane is absolutely essential for normal breathing. We have a condition called pleurisy. An inflammation of the pleurae can be caused by insufficient secretion of pleural fluid. The pleural surfaces become dry and rough, resulting in friction and stabbing pain with each breath. Conversely, the pleurae may produce excessive amounts of fluid, which exerts pressure on the lungs. This type of pleurisy hinders breathing movements, but it is much less painful than the dry rubbing type. So next, let us discuss about the bronchial tree. So after entering the lungs, the main bronchi is subdivided into smaller and smaller branches, finally ending in the smallest of the conductive passageway, the bronchioles. Because of this branching and rebranching of the respiratory passageway within the lungs, the network performed is often referred to as the bronchial or respiratory tree. All but the smallest branches have reinforced cartilage in their walls. The terminal bronchioles lead into respiratory zone structures, even smaller conduits that eventually terminate in alveoli or air sacs. The respiratory zone, which includes the respiratory bronchioles, alveolar ducts, alveolar sacs, and alveoli, is only site of gas exchange. All other respiratory passages are conducting zone structures. Conducting zone provides rigid conduits for air to reach the sites of gas exchange. Respiratory structures include nose, nasal cavity, pharynx, trachea, primary and secondary and tertiary bronchi. No gas exchange. So, the respiratory membrane or air-blood barrier. The respiratory membrane has gas flowing past on one side and blood flowing past on the other. Gas exchange occurs by simple diffusion through the respiratory membrane. Oxygen passes from the alveolar air into the capillary blood and carbon dioxide leaves the blood to enter the alveoli. The total gas exchange surface provided by the alveolar walls of a healthy man is estimated to be 50 to 70 square meters, or approximately 40 times greater than the surface area of his skin. The final line of defense of the respiratory system is in the alveoli, remarkably efficient alveolar macrophages, sometimes called dust cells, wander in and out of the alveoli picking up bacteria, carbon particles, and other debris, also scattered amid the epithelial cells that form most of the alveolar walls are cuboidal surfactant-secreting cells, which look very different from the squamous epithelial cells. These cells produce a lipid molecule called surfactant, which coats the gas-exposed alveolar surfaces and is very important in lung function.